Alright, and we're back in the time loop after monumental occasions have taken place, and the original series, which I retroactively tried to think of a name for, but as with you, I couldn't for anything. I just couldn't think of a name. It was just kind of weird. How there is no name that fully encompasses this that actually sounds remotely creative and cool. The Hot Wheels series is hardly a creative name. But anyway, so that arc worked when that was the villain, and I guess you could probably split it then into the robot arc as well. Just put it into two sections, that arc and the robot arc. But anyway, and other, more related things. Today's race is at Laguna Seca. Should be plenty familiar with this place by now. And today we are playing as Gearhead, joined by Amy, and Twin Mill starts right next to me. And there's also Madison down here in 14, but I don't think we'll see anything out of her unless I mess it up again. This may be the wrong number, but it's the same design, so close enough. Oh, hi Acura. I'm just Oh, we didn't need that. Oh my goodness, Audi are doing 40. What in the world? Of course, this track is in California, so the surface temperature of the course is a little higher than average, despite it being, like, autumn. When exactly in autumn, I didn't check, but it's autumn. And the track surface temperature is still 105 degrees, which is just over the average, or just over the recommended temperature for soft slick tires, which are still on there anyway, because driving with hard tires is darn near impossible. So that'll be a bit of an added thing here, is if I get pushy, the tires will overheat, but if I don't get pushy, I'm going to get pushed off instead of the road. Of course, Gearhead will take it and dish it out, but I would rather just avoid the problem altogether. Especially after the previous episode, anything that makes my time loop experience here less stressful is going to be the option that I'm going to take. There is a gnat in my room, so if you hear random buzzing, that's just him trying to get his, or it trying to get a couple of words in. And Gearhead is, flaunting his Metacog side today, apparently. He's already gotten up to we have already gotten a pretty substantial margin between him and second. That's not where you break for that, Pokey. My dog has been in an interesting mood today. He just barks at literally anything that makes any amount of noise today. It didn't help that a sheep belonging to one of our neighbors ended up in our yard for some time, and Our dog just could not resist the urge to bark at this thing he didn't recognize. Because he really doesn't recognize much of anything. He doesn't recognize me when I walk in the door half of the time. So of course he sees a sheep for the first time in his life, and he doesn't know what to do, so he just chooses bark obnoxiously for 20 minutes straight. Meanwhile, the rest of my family is, you know, trying to deal with the unexpected visitor. That's a lot of curb. Don't want too much of that. Okay, you can hear the bottom of the car scraping down the corkscrew. That doesn't seem like that'd be a good thing. That seems like it would kind of mess you up. But no. Thankfully. That was also a lot of curb. Let's maybe calm down here, me. So, some good news. Completed 3 laps, and the tires aren't really showing many signs of being overbearingly warm. If anything, they're actually right in the perfect operating window. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like I am sometimes into some of these turns. Even more curb. Luckily, the ones here aren't as nearly as lethal as they were at Road America previously. And by that I mean, well, I haven't spun yet, and I've hit so many of them so far already. This Porsche here is a little tight turning into a corner. It's kind of an interesting topic of discussion here. One such thing with the characters being different in different, you know, my versions as opposed to your versions. That's a lot of what the heck is going on with this coloring here. Okay, there's not red mist there, just hazy. It's just like, that was a weird color, and it's still weird. It looks like Crankshaft Bay, honestly. With the kind of orange fade color here that's going on from the sunset. You see, I told you we didn't need that braking mark, because that's not where I brake. So, ha. But... So, of course, I'll super tuned, as it was shown in the gimmick playthrough, which... Were I in full control of the series, the 2 names I would have chosen between for that playthrough were either, you know, Season 29, because that would be the season that would be on canonically, if 26 was when the player went through, or 28, if Season 26 was when the player played through it on console, and 27 was the Game Boy Advance version. Alternatively, 28 could possibly be the Champions League, but I don't really know if I would say that. It's become nighttime as we're about 7 minutes into the race. Well, that was nice. Or the bonus round. You know how game shows are. They have that very strange but sometimes better than the actual game show bonus round that is where you win the majority of the prize money and the actual reason that all of the contestants actually show up to it. Or not, if not all, then at least 70% of them show up to win that big money from the, you know, final round. So the Star Trek Challenge bonus round, I feel like could have been a good name had you thought of it. drastic change in color palette there. Minimal bumper grinding. Oh, you can't hit that one, by the way. I would normally not use the reset button, but I was A, facing backwards and reversing in this game is tedious, and B, I just don't care. Because realistically, hitting that curb doesn't do that anyway, so it's like, I shouldn't have been sideways at that moment in time. And I get this interesting color in the background where it's almost like a very, very off green in the sky, which makes no sense, especially for where we are. You can't see the Aurora Borealis from here. We are in Canada. We're in California. I forgot that one didn't do anything and I just got paranoid for a split second. I was like, oh no, I'm going to hit this and it's going to be bad. Was not. Yeah, so, you know, as evidenced by the color scheme of Supertuned, Gearhead's colors are officially blue in those storylines, but here, he's portrayed as driving a lot of green cars, blue being a secondary color you saw a lot of in Universe Zero, because finding a vehicle that came in green was very hard on Assetto Corsa. As my dog continues to forget how to think properly. And that's one heck of a lap right there. I require braking. Brakes on the Porsche, maybe its downfall, at least here. Did not want first gear, but okay. Oh. So, I have finally thoroughly determined the scheduling for this series. As far as how long it'll go and other miscellaneous details. First thing to start off with is the planned length is remaining at 250 episodes. Unless something catastrophic occurs that prevents this from being the case, like my PlayStation 4 breaks. And if I get my capture card at any point in the near future, which would allow me to record other Hot Wheels games and such, that would be interesting timing. Oh, good lord, breaking.
Hey.
Oh, goodness.
Why do you want to go to the movie?
Because I don't like Toy Story.
It's just a chance to get out of the house and do something.
I don't have to see a movie to leave the house.
Well, you can call Gray and tell him, okay? You're 18. You gotta do it Tactfully, you know what that word means?
Like, properly? Because it wouldn't be time loop without some sort of interruption externally. And if the mic picked that up, which I'm sure it did, no, I do not like Toy Story. One large thing that is strangely present in movies, despite my taste in animation. Characters generally, or ideally, the characters have to be human, or at least as close as you can feasibly get to human. Kind of gives them, in my mind, kind of gives them a bit of a realistic side. And toys are, you know, whether they act human or not, toys are precisely the opposite of human. They are, you know. Just, I don't know. Can only relate to a cowboy in a space ranger, you know? Because you think about, like, the characters that have been confirmed that I am, you know, fond of. Phineas and Ferb characters, they are definitely human, and while they have very, very non-humanistic aspects to them, including their design, they still act and have personalities and lifestyles of them. And they look close enough to be resembling of a human. They have human personalities, and, you know, are just normal kids that are incredibly smart and have weirdly shaped heads. The Powerpuff Girls, no, their design isn't much more standard fare human either, but they definitely act it when they're not fighting crime. There isn't really one character that I can think of that I strongly relate to, like, 100%. And of course, don't think that's even really physically possible, unless I were to create the character. Not impossible, but unlikely. My drawing skills are, you know, hardly Cal Arts style, or they're hardly Cal Arts worthy. In any case, referring back to Gearhead's color scheme, the reason why he's referred to as green here is because, in my eyes, Gearhead's official vehicle is not super tuned. He would be Lakester before he would be super tuned. Super tuned would be a second choice, and that's kind of what inspired him to drive those Porsche SUVs for so long. But it would be Lakester because it is a more balanced option with more armor than super tuned, at least in the PlayStation version of Velocity X, and other consoles for that matter. But also because there's a few of those kind of like differences in choice of vehicle. Not many, but there's a couple. And it's mostly for the characters that are in Velocity X. Danny is, of course, Suzuka still. But, like, Sparky, I consider more as... Someone's talking. Sparky is usually seen as Hyperliner, but I actually see her more as a showstopper / seared tuner. Despite her aggressive outlook, you know. And the sun is beginning to rise. We will have 5 laps to go after this one finishes, I would think. If it's not 5 laps, then it'll probably end the 5th one with like 2 seconds left on the clock, or less. Metacog, I'm still not even sure myself what car he's exactly supposed to be in, but I've always thought Hammer Coupe was his official vehicle, whereas, at least according to Velocity, or to the finale and soundtrack challenge, he drove Overboard, and as he did in many other races. I guess that's just because it appeared more, simply put, but the vehicle that is represented as him on the display case behind me is Overboard, is not Overboard, it is Hammer Coupe. But actually those three are really the only characters that I can think of that really have a big difference. That was weird looking. I was kind of forgetting how the sun looked when it rose, and I thought I was seeing brake lights for a second. Look at how fast that thing is going up. Oh, this is my fault. Don't look at stuff. If I were on a wheel, I could have probably kept that car straight. But, well, you've seen what it looks like on the cockpit when I steer left and right. It's not exactly precise enough to do that way. Drive a little more smooth for a moment until the, Oop! It's not impossible to be smooth-ish. It's just very difficult. Didn't need it. One reason why I would not use cockpit cam all the time in this series is because in pretty much every car in GT class, the speedometer is measured in kilometers, and while I can do some conversions like that, like, 100 kilometers is 62 miles an hour, 160 kilometers is 100 miles an hour, and so on, I can't really do that on the fly, and definitely not while I'm trying to steer a race car and keep it from crashing. The engine's taking a bit of a beating because of the oil temperature that's been a constant high throughout the race due to the ambient heat around here in this desert. Generally around 200 is, like 200 to 205 is like the perfect oil temperature. And it gets up to 220 occasionally. Something I just heard from this view that I hadn't really noticed too much, but that turbo whir when you hit the brakes is kind of strange. Like, listen to this. Or just when I let off the gas in general, that'll happen. We'll have 2 laps to go. Oh, And not every curb is friendly, as we just learned there. So yeah, I actually didn't really finish my thought on the scheduling plan, so it'll be the original plan, 250 episodes, unless something crazy happens, like I get my hands on a capture card, PS4 breaks, etc., etc., etc. Assuming that I can still find the motivation in me to continue recording stuff that no one's watching. And, you know, passing off as it's just a hobby only works for so long before you start to look like a moron. And said 250 episodes will be split into 4 different segments. What exactly those segments are, I'm not going to reveal, but they would involve new sets of vehicles. Also the split being 60, 60, 60, 70. Final part will be a little bit longer because it's kind of the grand finale, as you can probably get. Or probably may have gathered already that is the case. Okay, so effectively this episode's pretty much over. I just have to reach the line, and we will be done for this particular part. Well, that's not much turning. That's much curbing. And there we go. New fastest lap too. Couldn't break into a minute 26. I'm pretty sure I could have had I not almost wrecked it on that one corner. There's a very quiet applause off to the side of the track there. One of the sector split wasn't that. This slap doesn't count. Just my headlights on the entire time. That's kind of silly. Actually, I'm going to drive around to the pits because I want to see how close I could have gotten to lapping last place. I noticed on the bottom leaderboard, or the relative leaderboard, that I was getting kind of close, but I kept making mistakes, like trying to look at the weird sunrise. That was not a great turn at all. Alright, so I'm still a couple of corners off. You know, it's whatever. It's not my goal. Anyway, so that is it for this part of Time Loop. We will bring up the race results and see how Twin Mill... Oh, come on. Thank you. Twin Mill, Amy, and Madison did in the race. Twin Mill and Amy actually broke even. Actually, no, Amy lost a spot because Richter here started exactly where Twin Mill started. Or finished exactly where we started. What am I saying? But Amy lost one spot to one of these Audis. And Madison actually climbed the field a pretty good chunk. She started down in 14th and she finishes 9th. That Acura, though, did not have such great luck. Also, ironically, that the car that finished 15th is my League Racing GT3 vehicle, the 84 Mercedes. Why isn't that my current vehicle in Time Loop? Because, one, there's already enough Mercedes. Oh, hi, Twin Mill. and 2 because technically the Acura is my favorite to drive, so it's more grip, and while it loses a bit of top speed, it also looks better, in my opinion. Not that the AMG looks bad. Yeah, so that's it for this part. As for, I'm doing the previews again for when it comes around to the second segment of Time Loop. Where I will probably drop the Universe Zero subtitle on it and just say Time Loop Episode 60 or whatever. It might be Hot Wheels Time Loop Episode 60. Get more views that way, you know? So yeah. But as far as when I will come out with that previews video, it'll probably be close to around part 57, 58. Because there's a plan to kind of incorporate those cars into the final part of the GT3 segment. But I won't get to that when it comes. So until then,